Is this turned on? We're good? All right. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Such a pleasure to have all of you here. I'm Will Crow. I'm the director of the art galleries here at Lehigh and professor of practice in the Department of Art, Architecture, and Design. So glad that you all have carved out time to be here with us. We're having a very special year. As I think many of you know, we're celebrating 100 years of formal art exhibitions on Lehigh's campus, started in the 1920s, 1926. And as you know, we have all kinds of free ongoing programs. This program, Art in Dialogue, is one that aims to bring people together, both from the campus community and the greater Lehigh Valley community, to have interdisciplinary conversations. So it's really my pleasure and my honor to introduce tonight's program and our speakers. This program, Last Artist Standing, is really a conversation that I know I've been giving a lot of thought on this topic as I'm firmly in my 50s, which is how to sustain a creative life. That word sustainability is used all of the time. I know here on campus quite a bit around sustaining our environment and the resources that we have or what we recycle. But I feel like we don't really spend enough time talking about how do we sustain ourselves and our own creativity and the things that give us the most joy. So I'm really excited about tonight's program. So we are honored to welcome Sharon Louden here with us this evening. Sharon is an accomplished artist, educator, and leading advocate for artists' professional lives. She's well known as the editor of the influential Living and Sustaining a Creative Life series, including her most recent book, Last Artist Standing, this program's title, which gathers the voices of artists over 50 who are reflecting on topics like longevity, adaptation, and purpose in their creative work. Alongside her own successful studio practice, Sharon has dedicated much of her career to building networks of support of artists and fostering conversations about equity, visibility, and sustainability in the arts. We're also so grateful to our panelists who are joining us in this conversation so that they'll share their own perspectives and experiences. We're joined by 4 artists who are all featured in the exhibition upstairs, celebrating our centennial, Here and Now, 100 Years of LUAG, 100 Local Artists. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dylan Collazo, who's here, Angela Fraleigh, Jay Echevarria, and Rachel Lynn, who will be in conversation with us tonight. I want to extend a special thank you to Angela Fraleigh for connecting us to Sharon Louden, and also to our wonderful curator of education, Stacy Brennan, for organizing this. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Sharon Louden.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Thank you. I do have to thank Angie because she is the reason why we're here, and then Stacy, both of them working together. It's really about people who share the same values that can bring things together in a place like this, which for me is not only a safe space, but a brave space of sharing and learning from. So I'm grateful to be here. I just want to give everybody a context before I fully introduce. I'm going to read a little bit of some bios about these incredible people that I'm sitting, that are sitting to my left. We're gathered here to talk about sustainability, but some people in the audience who are younger than 50 may think, well, why am I here? Because if it's Last Artist Standing, artists who are sustaining their life over 50. The reason is artists who are in the ages of, let's say, 18 to 30-ish, and then what I found is really 55 and up, and I know this for a lot of facts, actually, they're the bookends to trying to get into a community to be able to foster sustainability. Oftentimes when people graduate from college, there's no kind of runway that can lead to opportunities or community. And then same with other generations, especially those who are made up of people who, sadly, a lot of women and women of color who are invisible in our lives, not just in the arts. So to me, after working for Creative Capital and other foundations, I started noticing that the demographics were both of those generations. And what's great about Lehigh is that what's wonderful about what you're doing, and then Stacy is, and everybody here, and then at Moravian, is that there's a concentration on giving information and pathways towards sustainability. So I just want to introduce to you, this is my loving husband right there, Vincent Vallega, and he's a jazz musician and political activist. And both of us work together to do these sessions. This is, Vince, is the 10th one or the 11th that we've been? I don't remember. Oh, 12, okay. So the 12th of 90 venues in the next 2 years in having these important conversations. What's important about these conversations is that usually people will want to ask questions after we warm you up in this panel discussion. I would like to encourage people to ask questions about what their needs and wants are. And especially the artists who are here and students, et cetera, because when someone says they need something, usually someone in the audience can fulfill that. Part of our nonprofit, the Institute for Sustained Creativity, is to make those real connections for opportunities to happen that yields jobs, different sources of income, exhibition opportunities, et cetera, that fills the lives and increases the value of artists. So before I have 2 more minutes on my schedule. Before I fully introduce them, I just want to say in the context of why I did these books, people ask me all the time, why did you do this? It's because I felt after amassing a tremendous amount of debt when I got out of college, that debt was paid off. Myself and my husband did it just on our own in 10 years. It was equivalent of $250,000 today. Back then it was $115,000. I learned that artists weren't sharing with one another, which is ridiculous because our resources, we actually come from a place of abundance and not a deficit. Artists give to the well-being of others, and yet the people who benefit from us gain far more than we do. We don't have retirement, healthcare, and yet we sustainably, these people who get from us, they extend their lives. Now you may say, oh, Sharon is just, she's just being dreamy or whatever, or this is false. Look on my website. We have a whole page of articles that proves this. In the last 10 years especially, the NIH, the World Health Organization, there's so many places that have said that artists give to the well-being of others and extend people's lives. So I don't understand why we are not paid for what, at least with the people that get a lot from us, the same amount in very different ways, but also why we're looked at as if, I said this morning, and Joey, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but I said this morning that, Van Gogh actually, he didn't really cut off his ear because he was crazy. He had epilepsy, and so he was very, very stressed, and that was not diagnosed correctly at that time. So I'm interested in the reality of how artists sustain a creative life. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask these wonderful people some questions, and that, like I said, is going to be a warm-up for all of you to be able to ask some questions and take this opportunity to say your needs and wants. And then if you would like to have a book, we're selling them. I'll be signing them. These books do not make any money for us. Last year's royalty was $7.25. I don't even think I can, like I said, a cupcake. I can't get a cupcake for $7.25. But that's not the point. I split the royalties with all of the artists and give them their own copyright. And so they can take that essay and do whatever they want. Just like a music a tour, we take these tours, we go out into the world to hear your thoughts and meet people and also learn from people like these wonderful people here to be able to bring that information, be catalysts, and give to others. And I'll just say one more thing before I get started, is that we did tours before. So for 5 years, from 2013 to 2018, 19-ish, we went for 5 years, and we met 12,000 people at 164 stops, 3 countries and this country, all across the country. And what we learned is that artists need to have their voices heard, number one, their work through their visual vocabularies. They want that validation like any human being, but also they need opportunities and value, and how do we raise that value? And one of the ways is to share how artists, who they are today. So with that in mind, Dylan, just gonna read a little bit about him. So Dylan, you're a Lehigh Valley native. Born and raised here. You're self-taught, and your painting is upstairs on the back wall on the left side, right? Sort of in the middle. Has everybody seen the show upstairs yet? Okay, if you haven't, then I'm just gonna tell you where the artwork is, and you could just go up there. And so your painting, you talk about a lot of visual narratives and symbolism in this style of portraiture. Can you, though, say a little bit about how you sustain your life otherwise? And then I'll introduce you all briefly, too.
Yeah, so I hope everyone can hear me. But I think there's a common misconception with artists that to sustain their life is fully within the arts. You're either a struggling artist or starving artist, or you're partially dedicated to something else, which makes the art suffer. One of the things that I take from an approach with my work is to make sure that I treat it like a full-time profession outside of my full-time profession. So there are set schedule hours, there are set studio hours. When I'm not working on art, I'm creating opportunities in terms of reaching out to the community, the network that I have, documenting new ideas, whether it be on paper, whether it be in the form of photos, but I'm always working, and I keep a dedicated time and space daily to the craft.
Oh my God, that's so great. So I will share too that everyone here was chosen. Myself and Stacy, we went back and forth a lot, but I can't be sitting next to anyone who isn't generous to other artists. So everyone here is. But I want to just say something before you go, is that I'm glad you didn't say the word day or term day job, because there really isn't a day job, because you bring your ideas everywhere you go. So artists are far more than makers, right? We have ideas. I said this before. I'm sorry, Joey and Tommy. Is Tommy there too? I'm sorry, you guys. You're gonna hear me again. But we have so many ideas that can come before we make things, and if we can't see them, we sure as hell know how to find them. Ooh, sorry, I'm pointing to all of you. Sorry. Okay, Angie.
Sure. What am I saying?
I'm supposed to introduce you. Okay, Angie. I have known Angie for a while now. We used to share a studio, the Marie Sharp Walenta studio program, which anybody in the audience should totally apply to. Free studio worth about $20,000 for the year. Well, Angie's a celebrated artist who shows at Herschel and Adler in Modern in New York. And her work really comes from this place of feminism, which I love, love, love. She's received so many prestigious awards and residencies, including being at the CORE program in Houston. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but it's substantial for artists. Oh, and the Bemis Art Center in Omaha, which is fabulous. Those apartments, those live-work apartments are great. So she lives here in Allentown and teaches at Moravian College. She is a full professor there, and she's also chair this year, which is fantastic. So can you talk about how you juggle these things, and you wear a lot of hats, and how do you sustain your creative life in a nutshell?
Can you hear me? Okay, yes. Well, I have an assistant chair. That helps with that. Would not be able to do that job without
thank
Tessa.
you.
Yeah. You mentioned Bemis. Wes and I both did that together, actually, in two separate. We both had the residency at the same time, but we had our two separate things. I was pregnant for a lot of it, and I kind of ruined his residency as a result.
Oh, this is her husband, Wes.
Who teaches here at Lehigh, yeah.
Yeah.
Also an artist, amazing, yeah. How do I sustain my creative?
Yeah, how do you juggle all the, well, sustainability is not just income.
How do I juggle?
Yeah,
I
but
think the reason I'm saying that is because it's like through people that like we have lots
Correct.
of support. We have kids, and so my mom lives right next door, which helps.
She does?
Yes. How I juggle. I wake up at 4 a.m. when I'm on deadline, and I paint for 2 hours, then get the kids out the door. Then if I don't have to teach, I paint for a few more hours. I go to New York usually twice a month at least to go to openings to support friends and meet with people, meet with curators. I often have a studio in New York that I can kind of create that too. Is this answering the question?
yes, but you should also share with them what we talked about today, if you don't mind. I'm putting you on the spot. Angie and I both, a lot of our opportunities come from, quote, cold calls. So 80% of the opportunities I've received, or we have received, not picking up the phone. I wouldn't actually do that because you're stopping people from their lives, but like actually doing the work to find people to date, essentially. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I do, because I mentor for mid-career people with another program often, and I feel like the one giant barrier again and again is people thinking that they can't just send an email. You can't possibly send an email to somebody, but honestly, you can. You just have to do your research ahead of time and make sure that there are people that you're really reaching out to someone who would have interest in your work, all things told, right? Like they are interested in the same ideas, they're interested in the same material. It could be any one of these things, right? And that is a huge, and oftentimes, like, I mean, the return rate isn't always, like it might be 20%, but you only need one sperm to make a baby, as they say. Right?
Wow.
So it's like, you
How about
only
that,
need
Wes?
Not about me.
Just to say that there's a lot of ways, and I honestly, like when you get to a certain point in your career, I think it's a far better use of your time than open calls, you know,
Yeah,
or like
absolutely.
applying for
Yes.
things in general. Yeah.
It's great. So Jay, thank you, Angie. So Jay, your work is upstairs when you go on to the left, and it's a small drawing, I think. Is it a drawing? Multimedia. Mixed media. Oh, I think it's on.
Oh, on. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, can you hear?
Yeah, mic'd up.
Mic's on. Okay.
Yep.
And your work is a story. Their work is a story of their personal life, right?
Yeah.
As well as commentary on the human condition. What I think Stacy and I were really appreciated is the fact that you are co-founder of the Alternative Gallery, which is a community art space located in Allentown. That is incredibly generous. So can you share a little bit about how your contemporary figurative work, which that's what you're saying that you do, can you talk about how you juggle that, and why did you start this nonprofit?
Yeah, so essentially, everyone can hear me?
You're good.
Okay. So essentially,
It's okay.
we started, me and two other co-founders, started the gallery space. We were looking for just a community that was closer to what we aligned with. We put out there a call for work, and we built it. They came, as they say.
Wow.
And we're still building even today. I paint full time. I was painting up until I left. Right, coming here afterwards, I'll be painting when I get home. And yeah, we wanted to create a space that was for artists by artists, essentially.
I think this is incredible. And I think the name of your work, is it Hyper? Is that the name of your work?
Hyper is the name of the work, yeah.
Okay, so you all can look at that. Thank you. Okay, Rachel. Rachel Lynn, I think you do one of the hardest jobs in the world. You're an art educator in Bethlehem, but how old are your students?
Elementary.
Oh my God, I could not ever do that. That was a layup. So Rachel actually studied with Angie at Moravian University, and you actually, I saw on your Instagram, you have some work that is multimedia too, non-silver photography, as you say, oil painting, et cetera. And I wanted to ask you, when you started teaching, when did you start teaching at Fountain Hill Elementary School?
I started teaching at Fountain Hill back in January of 2015, so it's a little over 10 years at this point.
And was it right after you graduated?
No, I spent a bit of time sort of bopping around from high school ceramics classes, short-term maternity leaves and that sort of thing, getting my foot in the door.
So why did you want to do that? Not that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a lot of work. So I teach an MFA program, that's enough. But I mean, thank you, you're a saint to do that. So tell me why did you invest in that? And how do you then sustain your life emotionally and physically, honestly, because it's a lot of energy, and then to be able to have that quiet time for your ideas.
I go into it with the thought of everything is a learning experience.
Oh, interesting.
If I have an opportunity to have a long-term sub position in a ceramic studio, excellent. I can really dig in and dive in and try it out and see if that's for me. And if it's not, great. Now I know that about me. I did a little bit of prints and graphics. I did some time in a darkroom photography studio. So just finding what I felt confident with and what I could play with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I feel so drawn to the elementary level, is because I can foster this sense of play and this sense of experimentation. Yes, I'm doing a bunch of different multimedia things, but I also have these other paintings going on and things like that. So I can kind of work with where I'm at emotionally, energy-wise, and that sort of thing. I can find something that works for me that day.
Yeah, that's great information. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go back to Jay, if you don't mind. And everybody here knows these questions. I'm gonna bop around a little bit because some of the questions you've already answered. But I want to talk about, since we're here in this active community, and Angie and I were talking about this before, the word community gets used so much, and that I don't know if, I'm not sure if some artists know really what that means. And Jay, clearly this is right up your alley, if you don't mind me asking. So how is that community essential to you for creating opportunities that are viable for artists? And what are they?
Yeah, so essentially we have different programming at the gallery. Always try to make it as cost effective, if not free. That way, anybody can come in and enjoy and experience the art that we have to offer. And yeah, it's just about creating different experiences for people.
And so what do they get out of that then, I mean, I would imagine those experiences enrich their lives, but how do you think that sustains them? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so we have like a free crafting group that's monthly. And I've seen artists who come in and they're kind of by themselves. And by the end of it, they're with a group of people, they've created a piece of work, whether they started it or finished it there, and now they're leaving with, this tangible thing that they've created and the connections that they've created while being among other artists and in an art space like that.
And do those connections continue, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. We have
That's
the same people that
fabulous.
come back. So, what started as a group of maybe 5-6 of us is now up to 20 per event. And most of those people are people that come back.
It's great.
Yeah.
Dylan, can you also share, here you are, you have different sources of income. Notice I didn't say those two words that I referenced before. So you have different sources, because it comes out of exclusivity, but different sources of income, and you're juggling your lives, but yet you're so generous to other artists. So how is community essential for you for creating opportunities not only for them, but for you?
Interesting. So I would say we have a really robust community here. I mean, from the entire Lehigh Valley, at places like the Alternative Gallery, there are places in Easton, a social tour that we have here. There's a lot of different aspects and artists to connect with. One of the things that's always been important to me as an artist, and I think it comes from my upbringing, I moved around a lot as a kid, is one, to connect, but also create a connection that fosters some type of benefit. So, a lot of times, what I like to do is I do independent pop-ups around my work. As part of those pop-ups, I like to make sure that the DJ, the music, the musicians are locally sourced, be it from an older generation or younger. The photographers are locally sourced, be it from an older generation or younger. And I just create those opportunities and long-term connections. And one of the biggest things that we notice is that those artists go on to create those same situations for others.
Oh, that's so great. That's fantastic. Thank you. And Angie, I want to ask you too, like on that with community, et cetera, I'm going to keep going on that. What suggestions do you have, do you think, for finding or building those connections, which is essential, right? Exchanges and engagement also with intergenerational artist groups. And we were talking about this afternoon.
Well, I was just thinking about what Dylan does is so perfect, because I think that what I always tell my students is when you feel like you don't have something, like you feel like you're struggling because you don't have the exposure you want, or you don't have the opportunities you want, or you don't have the platform you want, then it's your job to create it. So creating, working together with a bunch of artists to have a pop-up is fantastic. That's exactly what 20-something-year-old people, you might be, I don't know how old you are, but that's exactly what you're timeless. Yes,
But like
you're-
over 50
yes.
can do too, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, like if you feel like you haven't gotten any exposure, you can be the interviewer. Like you can provide a platform you can be doing, like writing about artwork, or you can be, submitting those essays to Art in America or Hyperallergic or so on and so forth. So there's like those ways of doing things is like actually, when you feel like you don't have power, I think that is like a huge thing that every artist experiences. Not
Yeah.
power in like a way that you want to, in a Machiavellian way, like, like evil way, do anything. But I think like, you just feel like, yeah, you're not getting what you need, so flip it over and you do it, right?
Right.
And then the other thing you were asking about networking and
Like,
connecting.
well, I'd rather say community building because networking has this sort
sorry.
of.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I love LinkedIn. We talked about that, but LinkedIn is amazing. But that's so centered on essentially money, right? This is more than money. I mean, we all need money, for sure. But what about? You said building those connections, but engagement with intergenerational artist groups, do you think? I mean, how do you bridge, and I'm going to be asking you this, how do you bridge like the age groups of your students with, let's say, your peers? Do you do that? I didn't ask that on here. That's a stump.
Do I actively create opportunities
Is it natural?
for students?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have a platform because I'm an educator, so I do
Yes.
get to bring in people who
Yes,
are,
that's it.
yeah. So that's one way.
So
to do
you
it, yes.
use your position to be able to make those connections. So the people you choose are generous, and they give to those artists.
Yes, absolutely. But I love what you do, Sharon, where you say...
No, this is not about me.
Well, I'm going to steal it because you literally just say, like, what do you need and how can I help you? I mean,
Right.
that is
I
something
already said
that's so, yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. How do you bridge how old are these kids?
Anywhere from 5, 6 up to like 11.
To your adult life? Or do you have an adult life?
We feed off of each other energetically. These kids are just well springs of ideas and energy and enthusiasm, right? For experimenting and seeing what happens when they move the brush that way, And it's invigorating. And I love being able to foster that and, get that sense of play happening because that's where I feel the most in the groove, right? When I can just not worry about the end product, just experiment and explore and see what happens.
That's great. Okay, moving along. I'm going to give you all a warning. We have 10 minutes before you're going to answer some questions. Okay, so we're warming up. So let's talk about money a little bit, the realness of it. DEI's programs were demolished, right? The NEA has really been stripped, actually. Arts funding is very slow at the moment, and some opportunities for artists have ended. But yet, artists, we're the backbone of intangible freedom of speech in so many ways. And we also don't have a fear when we create, right? that can be applied outside of our studio practice. So, but I want to ask you all, what do you think have been the biggest obstacles for you or other artists that you know to be able to sustain your life? And how have you been able to put food on the table? Because oftentimes artists are in a patchwork. Now, Dylan, I would love for you to answer that first, but I also want to say, you mentioned starving artists. There is no such thing as a starving artist because we're humans and we have to eat, so we can't be starving if we're sitting here, you know? So I think that idea of deficit is not realistic. So I would love to ask you, you know, how do you do that? What is the patchwork for you?
So I like to go back to my original statement on the misconception that people have. That's why I called it the misconception, because we aren't starving artists. I think that we have to be able to adapt to the times, adapt to the climate. One of the best things about having a supplemental or another source of income, if you will, is it allows you that freedom. It allows you a freedom that you wouldn't otherwise have when your income sources are coming specifically from the art sometimes. So sometimes when I'm dealing with needing to be able to express myself with all my freedom, I look at that supplemental source to keep me afloat. And then the finances and the income that I make from the art is really used to reinvest in the ideas, reinvest in the concept of the pop-up, reinvest in providing to those other artists that I bring to the pop-up. So just for context, every pop-up we do, every artist, everyone who's involved is paid. These are paid pop-ups. And it's to make sure that we're sustaining and recycling the money within the artist community.
So great. And Rachel, I know, thank you, that's really inspiring. Now, Rachel, I know you have this, is it a full-time job? But is it, do you, I'm not, sorry, I didn't ask you, it's very personal, but I want to ask you, is that enough for you and your sustainability? And, you know, what kind of patchwork do you have in your life other than just getting that income source?
So I think having an income source that allows me to stay fluid, both with my craft and with the like the mental processes, I think is a huge help. But I also have a second part-time job as a museum educator, taking people through a historic home down in Bucks County.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So again, that space is such a creative space. This person filled his home with amazing artifacts and creations of his own that spark so much imagination and creativity, so that when I have a sort of lull in my other work, you know, I can fill that lull space, you know, those summer breaks and those holiday breaks with a, you know, sudden onslaught of creation.
That's great, and I love that. And Angela, you are a natural educator, and I want to ask you too. What have been the biggest obstacles? What have been the biggest obstacles for you or other artists you know, to sustain your life?
The biggest obstacles, I think, are living in big cities. So friends of mine that live in like New York or maybe Philly, but I think it's a little bit more affordable. I don't understand it, because like childcare alone is incredible. The like rent and then a studio on top of it, it's so painful. So I think keeping expenses low has been strategic for me and my husband. We've also like been thinking long games, so we've done things like purchase property when the time was right and we could get it for very cheap, and then use that as like a retirement idea later on. I think, you know, it's also like getting the positions that might be fulfilling. I mean, I tell my students, the tipping industry is like the where to go, like, because there's a really great way of like just popping into a job that doesn't depend on you, and you're like, I don't know, you can leave it at the job. There's something that's really beneficial about that. As an educator, there's also like a lot that goes along with it that I cannot leave at the job, that I have to bring home. And so you have to figure out where you are in life. Like, is it time that you need more of? Is it money that you need more of? Is it, you know, and space that you need more of? And there's ways to get all of these things that don't require getting a $100,000 a year job.
Exactly.
You know, so.
I love that, because also there's in-kind exchange too. That's beneficial. So Jay, what are some obstacles for you too, and how have you been able to sustain your life?
Yeah, so for me, essentially, I work at a art supply store part-time, and I make art full-time. My spouse is disabled, and they're also the breadwinner. So for us, we just kind of have a lull of, like the months where it's vending season and there's tons of art events happening, and we're good financially, and then there's some months where we're penny pinching and it gets rough. But through that, I still we still do the free programming, we still run things. It's just that's what fuels everything else. That's what makes us feel good.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah.
Okay, so our last question, believe it or not, is this incredible? So I'm going to ask what your needs and wants are. Can't say money, because that's a given. Well, we need money no money, people. I mean, I know everybody needs money, okay. But tell me what your personal and professional needs and wants are, Rachel.
Energy. To be able to funnel better, funnel that energy better, and be able to withhold it when I need to during the day, to be able to extend myself more into the evening, I think would be ideal. Limiting energy drains for sure.
You seem to have a lot of energy.
I'm gonna crash after this.
Okay, Jay, what do you need and want?
Yeah, as far as need, I feel like, and want, is just less of a roller coaster with finances and more of a consistency. Like I said, through certain months throughout the year are way better than others. So just having a little bit more of that consistency, and just wishing there was more time in the day to get things
absolutely.
done, honestly.
Yeah, that's the difference between a career and a job, by the way. You have more time. There's never enough time in a
Never
career.
enough time.
Right. Angie, what do you need and want?
I need and want blue chip gallery representation and a solo show at the Met. Is anyone here able to provide that?
But I would ask you why you need that.
I don't need it.
That's
I want
right.
juicy projects that for the next 5 years. I want it every year I know that I'm doing this so that,
To grow your work?
yeah, I mean, that's all I ever want is a deadline.
There you go.
It's my favorite place to be in the world is having a deadline. But I need the kind of financial sustenance to support that. But yeah.
Correct. Okay, Dylan.
I think I could, take a little bit of everything they've said, but more so than anything, when you ask the question, space, time and space, and I'm very practical, and I'm also a go-getter, so I'm not going to talk about something that I want and need that I'm not actively pursuing. So specifically, when I say space, one of the ideas that I've been thinking of is how to connect with real estate agents with empty space, or people who are selling their homes privately, who are needing to showcase their space. Even local stores, so there's some folks in here that they have a local store or a shop. How do we capitalize on that space? How do we show art in that space in a way that people can feel like they've never seen before? So that's what I would like, that's what I would need, is space, time and some space.
Okay, thank you all so much. So I would love for you all to ask some questions of everybody here, but also shout out perhaps what your needs and wants. And I want to give I didn't say this before, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give you an example of a need versus a want. Like, I want a horse farm, but I need time, right? So, and I need more financial stability too, because I live the life in these books. And like, for example, my job at School of Visual Arts, MFA, I don't get any income from that because my health insurance is $25,000 a year. That's all I get from it. So I don't have any source of income from that. So, but I love it. I love the job. I love it. Love the health care too. But so the patchwork for me is that if I want that horse farm so badly, I'll change the need part or what I'm doing now and leave the SVA job and maybe work in a horse farm and groom horses every day and paint horses till the end of my life and maybe move where I am from now. I mean, where I live now to somewhere else. So that's the example. Was that clear enough? I'm sorry, it was a little fumbled there. But would anybody like to max out here and ask any questions or share their needs and wants?
I'll share my needs.
Oh, I love it. Could you say your name, please? Oh, nice to meet you.
Likewise. I'll say needs will be opportunity. More opportunities, like you said there, that when there's less open calls that feel like a competition of paid subscription, where then you can figure out ways to have a community of people who can offer opportunity that are on the back end for more artists, other than just trying to get it together or get that $200 fee or read that open call and then you feel like there's a million people, so you get discredited. As well as connection. Continuous connection. Like you mentioned earlier briefly about networking, and networking and connection are two different things. You know, we need more connections in the artist world and for it to stick and stay along and to show up to places like this so we can fill that void that we possibly all had is why we showed up here, if I'm not mistaken. So I would say those are my two.
That's fantastic. So I have to ask you a question. So are you an artist?
Yes.
And can you describe a little bit, not the media you work in, but the ideas of your work? What kind of ideas do you share in your work?
I would say all of the mediums of my work fosters to the human connection, the humans, the identity of humans, and how we move, operate, and throughout life. So my current collection is Ordinary People, which is probably half of you are probably because it's just portraits of humans of who
That's cool.
dealing with. Whether it's film and I'm expressing things that is happening throughout my life experience or things that I've heard through talking to people. So it just varies, but the majority focus on the human. I'm intrigued by the human and how we work, and the things that upset us, that upset me, that why we do these things, as to like the current state of order that we're all in right now, we're playing normal when the world is crashing.
Yes.
So that will end up, and like you said earlier, through art, we express these things. This is the way we speak. So
Right.
we should keep on painting. A wise man once said to me, if you show people how you paint. If you paint with your hands, show them how you paint with your hands. And that
Wow.
in any medium.
That's wonderful. You should be a teacher. So I'm sure there's other people here. Do you know everybody here?
I know a few people here that I'm here to support.
Does everybody, what was your name again?
Brandon.
Brendan?
Yes, Brandon Avery.
Okay. Does everybody know Brendan? Who doesn't?
I think absolutely.
Okay, so you all need to meet each other, okay? No, I'm not kidding. This is very important. It works, actually. Thank you. Thank you. I want to meet you after. Okay, I just met you, but I want to talk to you after. Okay, what else? Thank you for that. What else? Okay, Tommy and Joey, I'm going to go to you. Tommy? Thank you. I love you.
When things are down and you're not going well, maybe it's a slow time or you don't have the opportunities or maybe you don't have the inspiration you're looking for, how do you kind of keep on track and stay away from giving up?
Oh, from giving up? Okay, who wants to answer that? Jay,
Touch
you
on it
want
a
to
little
start
bit.
and Dylan then?
Yeah, honestly, I combat that with, and it might not seem as easy, but the more you do it, the easier it is. I'm always just creating through everything. That's just kind of how I deal with the day-to-day, and with any obstacles that come my way. I'm just always creating through it, no matter what.
I would echo that sentiment in terms of creating, but sometimes you get in front of the canvas and nothing comes out, or you'll get in front of that medium and nothing comes out. So I would say I do this thing, it's like a lily pad. I jump and I'll write down ideas. I'll write new ideas. I'll scribble down new sketches if I can't touch the canvas. But I think one of the best things, and I kind of said this earlier, is we have such a robust creative community here. There's always someone to look at. There's always something going on, someone creating that if you just pull that inspiration from them, it really acts as fuel, you know? I would say there's a couple gentlemen in the crowd and females in the crowd now that I can see that have inspired me. Even up here with some of the artists up here have inspired me personally in some of my downtimes. And just wanting to keep that community going, you know? It might not be your time right now. It might be someone else's time. You have to be ready for it.
What do you think, Rachel and Angie?
Well, one thing I definitely do for my students is I share a lot of different artists' work from all across the medium and idea spectrums and across time and space and, you know, wibbly wobbly and all that. But because you never know when the idea is just right for this one student with where they're at. So just, yeah, like you said, Dylan, you know, getting out in front of artworks, exploring what's out there, not through social media because that's a rabbit hole that ends up badly. But, you know, in a space that's like this where it has been thoughtfully curated and is designed to create this sense of inspiration for sure. A great book that I stumbled on a couple years back that talks about using contemporary art in a K-12 setting is absolutely fantastic with, you know, talking with these artists about how they break down their idea development and their concept development through like word webs and things like that is really fantastic. I can look it up after if you'd like the title. I can't think of it off the top of my head though.
Angie, what do you think?
Are we talking about like a fallow period? Because it helps to call
Yeah,
it
Tom.
a fallow period.
Yeah, is
Sounds
it
much fancier than like, I don't have any ideas.
is it a fallow period or
Or
giving
is
up
it like-
altogether? Yeah.
Well, there's a couple different things, because I do think like putting more stuff in to get stuff out is helpful. Like I think a lot of the suggestions up here. I also think just going for a walk or taking a nap or I think I went through a bit of a fallow period in 2008, and I started treating myself almost like a detective. Like I started treating every little idea or every little thing I was drawn to as if like I can figure this person out. They're really into something amazing, and like it did. It led to an entire body of work. It was really like came out of left field. So yeah, I think you have to like kind of trusting your intuition, but you have to be quiet enough to hear it. So.
I also want to just share too something. I echo everybody here, but also go or position yourself where you're most comfortable, rather than resistance. Like I love binge TV listening while I'm working. So I'm into like the 6th season of 25 or 26 SVU, Law and Order, and Vince knows I can't stop. Done. I can't stop. So like, but I'm so creative during that. It's very relaxing for some reason. And so you have to give yourself a break and provide a comfort, whatever that's going to be, to allow yourself to breathe. But I love that question. You're amazing. Okay, we have more time. Anybody have other? Joey? Oh, and then I'll get to you. Joey? Where's Joey? Did he leave? Oh, I'll get back to you. Okay. Oh, you're next after that. Go ahead.
Question for the artist. When you create, because you all talk about working hard at your creative project, do you create because you have to get it out of you, and that's, a force inside you that makes you create and be an artist? Do you create because you want to show your work and share your ideas and your point of view? Or do you create because you want to sustain yourself with an income? You want to sell. So what's in your head?
So you're asking three different options, A, B, and C. A being, do you create because you have to?
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it ends up
Right. B, if you want to show it.
you want to share your ideas,
Right.
rally your community.
And C for a source of income. Great. Who wants to start with that? Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's always about a necessity to get my emotions out and to connect with others. It feels like this just need that I can't ignore, and I forget what was the second part of
Well,
that.
there are 3, it's sort of like a checklist, I think. It seems like, it just seems like do you create because you need to?
Yes.
And then the second thing or do you want to show your work? Is that why you create? And the third was for a source of income, why you create.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Like as I touched on a moment ago, it's also to connect to other people as well. And there's always going to be that part that creating to sustain my lifestyle, to make money is always there as well.
Okay, Angie, what do you think?
Definitely not C, but
Yes.
because that would be amazing, but isn't really
Right.
dependable. I think actually, in some ways, you end up not creating because you don't want more storage issues.
Oh,
But
that's a huge thing.
the older you get,
Absolutely. Ooh.
in fact, I think I was like, Wes, can you just make everything inflatable? Because like then it would like compact more. I have my own big giant painting issues.
Yeah.
I'm not like calling him out, but I think that art is the most important thing. I think it's like the only it's like the most human thing, and I think it's the most important thing. And so yeah, I create because of that. It's not like I have to. It's a I can't think about anything else kind of thing. But it's not like I just really love to like. It's not like the way it's shown in movies. It's not
Oh,
like that.
no. Dylan, what do you think?
I would say first it's the internal force, right? I think that's what creates the work. I'm a notorious hoarder, like so storage. I sympathize with that deeply. But there's this second aspect that goes back to community to me. The reason why I share my work, the reason why I put the work out, the reason why some work does see the light of day is community. It's having that constant drive to, one, share with my peers, but also ensure that we're creating the narrative around this creative community. That the narrative continues. A lot of my work is personal in nature and about my personal life story and legacy. So if some of it didn't see the light of day till 2076, it wouldn't matter to me. But then there's that aspect of community where I want to make sure it's connecting and I want to make sure it's contextualized the right way.
I use art to sort of meditate and figure out my thoughts around an idea and to sort of process it. I just think in a very visual way, so I like to sort of tinker and toy with something, and it's just my way of sort of working through an idea.
It's great. Great question. Thank you. Okay, we have somebody here.
Just curious, how, when you started embarking onto delving into the art world, were you young children, and did you get a lot of support from your parents?
So I'm not a participant. Anyway, did you hear that question? Okay.
Support meaning encouragement to go that route.
Who wants to tackle that first? Angie.
I will, because I did get a lot of support, not financial, but my parents were incredibly supportive. I was the first to go to college in my family. And so that was like a way in. I could draw stuff and go to college and that would pay for it. That's amazing. So yeah, I think I just also have a really supportive mother. So she's just amazing.
How about you all? It's such a great question. I would love to hear.
Yeah, I started, I was 19. I was always drawing and painting to some degree up until that point, but it was just kind of little sketches and such here and there. But it wasn't until I was 19 that I actually was painting on canvas and using mixed media and exploring. And from that point on, it was just like, it just took off, and it was nonstop every day. It still is. And yeah, luckily my parents were extremely supportive, especially my father. So that was very helpful.
Rachel?
I remember a moment in elementary school when my elementary art teacher picked a painting that I did to put in a local art show. And I was horrified when I found out what it was at the show, because I didn't think it was finished yet. So that was, I remember creating in preschool, and I'm really glad that my folks saw that as a essential part of my being and didn't squash that. It was just like, okay, but like add the education onto it, please. It was bargaining, really, I suppose.
I've always lived a really creative lifestyle and had a creative way about the way I approached life, but I didn't really start creating until I was in my early 20s, after I was married. So to give context to that, I come from a family where once you're a man, you need to do man things. So I was very much, it was secondary. I don't think my family really understood what I was doing until the pop-ups started to happen and the independent shows and things that were happening. I would like to say, though, that recently I did get my grandfather's blessing, and he did tell me that if I stopped doing this, that he'd kick me in the butt. So.
Oh, that's good. And how long did that take you?
7 whole years.
Wow, I wish I had your family. It's amazing. No, I love my family, but they weren't supportive. Great question. Okay, who else? Yes.
I'm trying to gather my thoughts.
Of course, of course.
I'd like to put out a need, not just for myself, I think, in our community as therapy, art therapy.
Yeah.
Particularly for moms, I think. I've been thinking a lot recently about my grandmothers. My paternal grandmother had 15 children, starting in the early 1900s, and lived through everything. Like she was 97 when she passed away, but I didn't know until after she passed that she did art, and she was, I do vaguely remember her crafting when she was in the nursing home, making like styrofoam egg carton trash cans that were crocheted together into weird little stuff like that. But she actually painted. She took lessons from one of her daughter-in-laws that was an artist, and when that started sort of popping up, when I was a little bit older, it was like, when did she find time to do that? And it wasn't until she was a little bit older, and the kids were a little more independent, I think. But and my other grandmother had 9 children.
Oh my
Lost
God.
many children in between all of those.
Amazing.
And worked on a farm, a wheat farm in Kansas. And so I know her life was incredibly stressed and busy. And she was the most amazing quilter. She made beautiful, beautiful quilts. And I did know about that as a child because she made everything for us. She'd make us all pajamas for Christmas every year, nightgowns that matched our dolls, and just all kinds of things like that. But I never put that in, again, the perspective as she was doing that to take care of herself somehow through all of that. And
So how would therapy be something that's linked to that?
for me, linking into that and stuff too, I have an adult child with disability, and that's not going to stop for me.
Right.
So art has become my therapy.
Oh, that's great.
In addition to real therapy, but it's what makes me feel best. And I think there's a real need for moms not to have to wait so long to find that out. That's a route that they can take that will make them feel better.
To be able to
Connect with other
connect with other people. We've been saying connection a lot. It's constantly talked about on these tours. I want to ask you a question. Do you feel that, so the art is helping you, essentially giving you that breath, but as far as connection goes, would you say that you want more connection, let's say from people here?
I think that specific community,
Mothers.
I think in general need that. I think, that was something that I wish that I'd had a little bit sooner.
That's great.
Instead of
Well,
finding it.
I want to ask Angie to speak on that a little bit, because she has 2 children.
No, I was just thinking, like, we should create an event where, like, there's childcare on one hand, so like, art making on the other. One of the ideas that I had, what I've never had to use or could use, was if they're a group of artists who are also parents, having one parent take all of those children one day and then just trade off. So then you get 4 studio days, but you get only have to take care of kids one day. So I think that's like one way to do it. Figuring out that whole, it's very different. It sounds like you have a much more complex situation, but the childcare thing, it's money. You need money or you need people that will support you. And if you can't do those things, it's a lot harder. So,
And are you talking about motherhood in connecting with other mothers, or just understanding motherhood and being an artist and art? By both. Well, in my second book, there's an essay by Lenka Clayton, who actually created a residency for motherhood online. So there are actually a lot of different, if you go on my website, SharonLouden.com, under resources, we have all these resources. I mean, a lot of resources on that page. You can find different things that are for parents, and that has been increasing quite a bit. There has been a need for that. So I would just say to take that as a point of starting point for research to see what's out there. But anybody else want to answer that? Is there a community of mothers who are also artists here? Anybody?
I'm in one, and I think it's just a matter of like finding those people and having the opportunity to meet once a month really helps to have conversation around that. I'll also say I think it's really important to advocate for yourself as a parent artist, because that landscape is changing only because people have been talking about it. Women have been excluded
Right,
from the art
that's
world.
exactly
and
right.
not, like when I was in my early 20s, it was like Tracy Emin saying she specifically chose not to have children because she wanted to have a career, and that to have to make that decision is really horrible.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true. It's true. Now, did anybody else want to contribute to that, by the way? Have any thoughts? Okay, we have time for 2 more questions or comments. Yes, is that Joey finally? No. Hi.
I'd like to address the end of the conversation. Like, I'm at the stage where I want to wrap up my career. So does anybody, I know they can.
Well, I can. Well, I'm 62. So wait, tell me about what you mean by that.
I don't want to leave my kids a bunch of big
Oh, I can help you with that. Okay, I talk about this all the time. That's one reason why I did this book. Jan, do you have pen and paper? Do you have a way of writing something down? So Jan Worm, W-U-R-M, is if you go, one of the reasons why we have this nonprofit is to make connections with people who can help you with that. So she is an inspiration for me. She's in her late 70s. She said the same thing as you. She said, I don't want to leave my kids my work. So I always call it getting out of the basement, even if you don't have a basement, like visually getting it out of the basement, well, and getting it out there. So what she did was smart. She did the research like we do in cold calls, essentially, found different museums, mostly university museums, nonprofit organizations that have collections and collect and actually receive donations, but have the same language and values as you do, okay? So she did that work and started writing letters to them. She placed her work in all of these museums and the archives in the Smithsonian, which is something you should really look into because they collect papers and they collect a whole bunch of things, and they'll come and pick it up. She lives in Oakland, California. They came and picked up everything. And so she was able to do that so much that her career was elevated because she got in all these museum collections. I will say 80%, let's be conservative, of museums in this country collect through collectors giving their work because they're to the museum or trustees, et cetera, and they don't necessarily come from, quote, acquisitions or financial acquisitions. But what happens is, because I think the art world, there are many art worlds, but the one that is talked about the most is so interested in perception rather than reality. I'm interested in reality and not the perception. But the perception is that if you get your work in all these museums, you must be successful. So then her career went out like going crazy because she did that work. So, and now she doesn't have work in the basement for her kids. She has it out there for a lot of people to see. So if you come to me later, I can give you her email address, but and if you want to, she's like a consultant, but you have to go through me to do that because she will only work through a nonprofit, which I think is great too. Did I answer that question? Anybody have any thoughts on that? You have thought.
Well, I just want to add to that there's an organization now that you can put your work online, and museums will repeatedly look through for knowing that it's a donation. I'm trying to find
Is that the Museum Exchange?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a museum, it's called the Museum Exchange, which is, I forget who started it, but essentially they organize bringing, like basically museums accepting donations. But that's usually museum to museum. Institutions, may not be individuals, but it's a big thing now because storage and papers, estates, planning, and actually inventory is extremely important, and it's laborious. I don't think schools, when I was growing up, no one told me I had to do any of that stuff. So I think it's extremely important question. Anybody else have another question about that? Yeah.
I need advice. I tend to jump from topic to topic, from idea to idea, from interest to interest, from medium to medium. Like, I am sort of multifaceted in all those different things, and like really enjoy the procedure, building, things like that. How do you build a cohesive body of work when I don't know, you're built the way I am, where you sort of again bop from thing to thing? How do you find your voice? Can you have a cohesive body of work that's not a cohesive medium or message?
The answer is yes. But anyway, do you want to, you all are nodding, right? Jay, do you want to say? You're smiling too.
Yeah, I feel as though you definitely can. It's just about harboring that voice and being able to use it across different mediums, and just sticking true to how you create. I'm much like you, where I'm working on multiple projects at a time, but I'm always trying to keep some cohesiveness to the whole thing, which can be challenging in moments, but as long as you stick to what you do and what you know, I feel like it kind of comes across.
Yeah, I mean, there's usually a thread, like the medium assists the idea. So if you think of it that way, and finding that visual thread. Do you want to say anything, Rachel, about that?
Who says a body of work has to be sequential?
Right.
Right? Why can't you develop multiple bodies of work at the same time?
And still have your voice because it's coming from you. You guys want to say anything?
Well, I always just think it's like your handwriting, right? It doesn't matter what the words are that you're writing, your handwriting is still present. You might not see how much they are linked and work cohesively, but other people probably will.
Dylan?
I think Angela touched on this earlier about investigating yourself, finding that nuance. So I think when you find that thread that kind of has all those multifaceted aspects tied together, investigate that for your voice. That's the most important part. It doesn't matter, what you're using your voice to say as long as it has your message in it. And I think once you investigate yourself, or you investigate what it is that ties those things together, it could be a powerhouse of work.
Yeah, I think that the other thing I would say too is that you have to be a little objective too. Great artist is a critic of their work too. Sit back and see, where are the threads? Where's the connectivity? Not in the medium, but in the ideas, and then even your lines and your mark making, because formal decisions are conceptual too. Okay, one last question, because we have 2 minutes left. Any last questions? Yes.
I think one of the main things that I need is confidence. I took a 10-year hiatus from art, and I'm trying to get back into it now. But I never really got to enter the art world. So, like, when you all were starting out, what was that thing that let you have the confidence to push through the threshold and actually enter the world?
You all? Anybody?
I'm a very shy person by nature. The time that it took me to talk through even accepting being up here was nerve-wracking. And
Oh my
husband
God,
can
is that
attest
why
to it.
you were delayed in getting back to me? I was wondering.
But honestly, what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
They say no.
Exactly.
Like, I found that you have to sort of develop your inner weird art teacher voice, right? Like we all had that teacher, and I try to be that for my students. Have a little voice in the back of your head that says, yeah, try it. What's the worst? You don't like it? Oh, well, paint over it, you know? Go for it. Yeah.
Jay, you guys want to say anything about this? You all?
Yeah, I think a little bit of maybe not fully delusion, but kind of in that realm of just going for it, and yeah, kind of touching what you say, and what's the worst that can happen, you know, just give it everything that you have, be authentically yourself, and, you know, you'll find your people along the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll take this one. Oh, you go.
So I'll say, me and I want to say my creative friends, we have this concept of the X-Men. You know, we all see ourselves one way, and we have this skill, or we have this certain medium or a voice that we bring to the table that may be extremely different or odd to someone else. But when you come amongst those creatives, we all kind of shine. You shine in your own way. So I would say just find your X-Men, find your character.
I just don't think you need to believe the feeling, because the feeling is not necessarily a thing. Like, a feeling is different than an action. Like, just press send. Like, just email the people. Just go to the event. Just say hi. And then if you're coming at it in a way that's, like, really, truly privileging the connection, there's nothing wrong there. Like, just human to human. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not selling yourself in a situation. You're just, hi, I like your shirt. You know, like, like, just, yeah. So that's my advice.
I would just also say there's no such thing as a professional rejection. It's a difference of opinion. So I never think of no. I think of maybe later. So I think if you want to really, I always think of it as dating, even though I haven't dated in forever. But I would say, you know, finding your people, like we've been all saying, who have your same values, and you can understand their language, visual language, and your truth through it. But if you feel the need to share in your truth, your language, who cares? It's short life, you know? But also, it sounds like you're giving a lot of power to the art world. Please don't do that. Yeah. They're human beings, and there are just a lot of, you know, the Aborigine art world, I'm sorry, Joey and Tommy, I said this before, but the Aborigine art world is like twice as big as the art world that's talked about so much. And then you have other art worlds. So you don't have to give a lot of power to a world that only serves a tiny percentage of artists. And I would ask yourself, why do you want to do that? Everybody needs validation you can get in other places, especially from everybody here. So with that, thank you for that. With that, I would just want to say thank you, thank you. Thank you to everyone here for coming. And thank you all for sharing your time and your knowledge. And I would just say you all should spend some time saying hello to try to meet the people who have shared their needs and wants. And if you have them as well, take an opportunity here in this moment, because it may not happen again like this. But we're also signing books here if you want to be able to read some of these essays, and we're on tour. If you're in Texas next week, we're there. And we're in Nashville, Asheville, Knoxville, and Western Carolina University the following week. So follow us online, and feel free to send us an email through sustainedcreativity.org. So thank you all so very much. I appreciate it.